Thank you so much for being with us this morning, bright and early, at this webinar on smart ports, where we will look at port development and the role of ports in facilitating the green energy transition. My name is Rognerud, and I'm head of export here at Innovation Norway Paris office. And we organized this webinar in collaboration with our Team Norway partners, most notably the French-Norwegian Chamber of Commerce, but also the Norwegian Embassy and the other partners in Team Norway. And we also have the pleasure of having with us in this webinar series the Cluster Maritime Français, and a partner to this webinar also is the Pôle and the HAROPA, who you will meet shortly after. 2 words on the webinar series and the running of this morning's session before I introduce our distinguished panelists. This is a series in 4 parts that we started jointly with the Chamber of Commerce, looking at the future solutions and opportunities for French-Norwegian collaboration in the energy transition and green transport. And we covered themes such as the greening of shipping and maritime transport in general. Today's session on smart ports will further elaborate on that topic, hopefully. We also have a session on offshore wind, and finally one on electric vehicles and smart charging just after the summary. So check out the series, and some of you were hopefully with us last time also and have seen this in the making. On the running of this morning's session, what is important to say is that we will soon get to our 4 panelists. You will be with us for about an hour. We will have you out of this communal digital meeting room by 10 o'clock. But for those of you who attend, there is that option of booking B2B meetings on our platform just after. You can also make contacts there and obviously agree on follow-up meetings later if that is of interest to you or you cannot join this morning. A special thanks to the Chamber of Commerce who's organized this, and obviously to our panelists who have offered to share their experience this morning. The theme is smart ports, and those of you around the table, I assume will know 80% of all commercial freight worldwide goes via the seas, 70% if you count value, which means that the ports are really our lifeline. When we talk about a smart port, then we really talk about a port that uses technology, automation and innovative technologies, including artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things, blockchain, etc., to improve performance and efficiency. But importantly, that smart port technology is also key in improving environmental sustainability, which I know is a key topic for many of our attendees this morning. We have with us 4 gentlemen who all can shed light on some of the key developments in the sector in respectively France and Norway, and hopefully also can give us some ideas on how we can work together to further this very exciting field. Starting at my left is Mr. Cyril Chédot, who's Head of Territorial Development and Planning Services at HAROPA, which is a group of ports connecting the seaport of Le Havre with the ports of Rouen and Paris on the Seine. We have with us Mr. Phil Monbet, who's Deputy Director for the cluster Pôle, Bretagne, Atlantique. From the Norwegian side, we have the pleasure of having with us from Bergen, Husby, who's Head of Environment at Bergen Port and also in charge of the program for environmental port indexes, which we will hear about shortly. And last but not least, Ivan Østvik, Project Manager at the Norwegian company Norled. So welcome all, and look forward to a frank exchange and debate. And I would really like to start with you, Mr. Chédot. You are head of the territorial development and planning services at this port complex, these 3 ports that I mentioned, and really key to the French port development and transition. Now, I know that France is one of the world's leading maritime nations. French ports have some 350 million tons of freight and 30 million passengers annually, 300,000 employees, so obviously a very big business. And just this January, the French government launched its new port strategy. So we'd be really curious to get a couple of your reflections on your vision for the future of French ports. Please, Cyril, and you'll have to unmute. I muted you just earlier. I believe you're still muted. Still muted, I think.
Is it better? Can you hear me? But I don't hear you. I can't hear you. Come on.
Much better. I was muted.
Okay, okay, right. Okay. So
please go.
So thank you very much, Ellie, and thank you for the invitation. I will try to humbly present what we do in this very special context of HAROPA. As you said, it's the collaboration between the ports of Le Havre, the port of Rouen, and the port of Paris. It means we are the first French port complex. And talking about smart port, of course, we usually talk very much about technological issues. Of course, we address, like any ports in the world, I would say, and especially in the northern range of Europe, we address this question of 5G, IoT, blockchain, data, and of course, energy, new solutions for energy, of course. But what I would like to show you is that we have a very special dynamics in terms of innovation. If I can change the slide. Okay. This very special context and dynamic is that we work very much at the territorial aspect of our innovation policy. As you can see on this map, the river Seine, it's a distance of 200 kilometers between Le Havre and Paris, and it's a major. It's a major industrial site for France, for Europe, of course. It's 50% of the French productive jobs that you have all along the river Seine, of the axis between Le Havre and Paris. When you consider the Paris region, it's something like 12 million jobs and 20% of the French job. So it's a major logistic and industrial complex. Connecting 3 ports and 2 international airports and 1 national market, which is Rungis, a platform. So what you see is the classical representation of a map between Le Havre and Paris in Normandy, since you have the city of Caen. And then at the bottom, you have a vision of an architect, which is called Antoine Grimbach. He did something very interesting 10 years ago about the Grand Paris. There was a contest called the Grand Paris. And it's a vision of a completely integrated gateway between Le Havre and Paris, and organizing everything, production, logistics, mobility between Le Havre and Paris, and offering an international gateway outlet, I would say, to the rest of the world, to Paris, and offering completely new services that would help out every problem that is concerning the city, I would say the region of Paris, which is confronted to so many problems, that one of the solutions would be to organize this gateway. So what we precisely do in 2 days, the merging of the 3 ports will be effective. So at the beginning, it was just a coordination dynamics. Now it's we are legally merging all together. There will be just 1 CEO. And as you see, the investment we have all along the HAROPA complex in the next 5 years, it's 1.45 billion euros over 8 years, and 1.2 billion euros in the next 5 years. And if you look at this amount of investment, there is nearly, I would say, 50% which is dedicated to clients' services. I would say business as usual for port authorities. And now we work very much at ecological transition. The rest of the investment is dedicated to ecological transition, human capital, and innovation. What is I would say what is special is that we have 1 project which is, I would say, subsidized by the French government. It's called Smart Port City. So the idea we have is that we cannot do 1 smart port on one side and 1 smart city on the other side. We want to do something all together, since we strongly believe that if we want to transform the territory of HAROPA, we have to transform, to try to transform first the different territories, especially try to begin by the Havre and transform the territory with a large amount of projects. If I show you the projects, I would say the roadmap is more than 240 million euros over 10 years of investment with 80 different partners. And of course, we address the topics of mobility, energy, data, environment, attractivity, social innovation. And what is new is that we have to, we now speak with completely new kind of partners that are in kind of joint ventures with us to develop new services in all these fields of activity. These new partners, the more relevant, I would say, are partners like Cisco, Airbus, Nokia, Siemens. We work with them on 5G. And it's completely new to discuss, to have a new project and try to set up new businesses and new services and new joint venture with this kind of partners, and to try to articulate, you see, this very large international scale with local companies, smaller companies, like small startups, like let's say Seine, which is one specialized in big data. So the challenge for us, of course, we address the classical, I would say, technical issues, but we work very much at this global architecture to put everything into places, to have this scenario of sustainable transition. We work at, of course, innovation, I would say classical technical innovation. We work at social innovation. We work at sustainable development innovation issues.
Very, very, very exciting and impressive, Cyril. I must say, I wasn't aware that it was 50% of all productive jobs along the Seine, 20% of all French jobs. That is massive. I understand that from what you're saying, that the essence of the HAROPA strategy is indeed to create this integrated gateway, and just 2 days away from merging the three ports. That is exciting. So good luck with that in a couple of days. And I want to ask a follow-up question on that sort of collaborative effort that you started illustrating. You said you had 80 different partners on this. I know you're also heavily engaged in a number of collaboration projects on each of these themes and challenges, including projects on hydrogen refueling, electric charging, big data sharing. I mean, there's so many things within this this presentation you just gave here. Can you dive into maybe one or two of these projects and tell us a little bit more about how you've run that collaboration? And when you say, we're now taking in new partners, how do those partners come in? So for some of the people sitting around the table thinking, oh, but that's exactly what we're doing in this line, this type of work, how do they get engaged? Give us an example.
We have many ways of having new partnerships. One of the most recent one is, for instance, we are in a partnership with the Port of Rotterdam in a Green Deal call for bid project, which H2020. And we will work on hydrogen refueling and shore power for ships. We have a special partnership with a French association which is called Evolenup. It's an association with different companies and businesses specialized in energy, and we have this kind of it's a system where we try to identify innovative companies and startups, and every year we have a bunch of 6 or 10 startups that we try to accelerate. We have this kind of and of course we have the traditional, I would say, partnerships with our customers, and we are working close with shipping companies, of course, to develop the new services, and the major companies like as you can see, ENGIE on the energy development.
Very, very interesting. So a number of collaborative projects and also entry points ranging from EU programs and financing to innovation hubs and startup incubators to obviously regular calls and tenders. That's good to know. And well, you now have Cyril's contacts if you're around this table.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
so do reach out. But I want to then perhaps I can turn to you, Phil, Deputy Director of the Technical and Maritime Cluster Pôle Atlantique. You're a marine science and technology cluster in the Bretagne region. And I know that you're particularly concerned with the optimization of energy utilization and how to reduce emissions in the sector, including reducing the carbon footprint of the harbour itself. And you also represent a big chunk of this ecosystem that I believe Cyril was referring to. Could you say something about the trends in this part of the market seen from your members' perspective?
Yes, thank you, Eli, and once again, thank you for the invitation. I'm quite happy to try to collaborate with this French-Norwegian collaboration. I'll start, if you don't mind, Eli. I'll start with a question. What do you think in terms of smart ports we have in common? Two things in common, French and Norway.
Ah. Is it me put on the spot? Apart from well, two major maritime nations, obviously with long coastlines and a rugged sea, and I don't know if that counts as number two, but a very proud history of sustainable exploitation of the seas and good coexistence between a number of actors, for example. So but you have the
part of the first. I think the first answer or the first thing in common. Regarding the longest coast for our country, so I just put that on this figure, the western part of France and the number of ports we have on this part of the coast, and the southern part of Norway at the same scale on the picture, where we can see that we have quite a lot of ports. So that's make one thing in common. We have a lot of things to address, and if you look pretty well, they're not large or very large ports that are supposed to be green and purple. They're mostly small or medium ports. So the second thing we have in common, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think all our ports we are not in the top 50 of the world ports. So I don't know if we have this, if it's good or bad, but at least we have probably common things to address, and which make probably a different challenge, different common challenge to address together. Just briefly, you mentioned already these numbers. Ports are essential to sustain our economy, and as I said, on the western part of France, a long coastline and more than 20 commercial ports, and mainly dedicated to fisheries, good passenger and shipbuilding. So that's the topic. Maybe Cyril will agree with that. I hope you will agree with that. But over the last 2 decades in France, mostly what changed the most in terms of ports, it's rather governance than operational or concrete evolution in the ports themselves. And now there's real ambition to use port as hubs, as the picture that Cyril showed with the integrated vision of the ports. That's really where we're going. And there also, that was mentioned, there are also a very real ambition to change things in terms of ecological transition. So this French national port strategy was released not long time ago, and that's where all the ports in France are going. So there's a lot of innovation to address that. And I'm not going to talk about all the innovation because ports, obviously, they gather a lot of activities from the ship itself coming to the port, to the gateways, the train, and the multimodal mobility and stuff like this. But I'll talk about just two things today, because we're moving towards greener and smarter ports. So I'll talk a bit about hydrogen and also digitalization that is a bit everywhere in the maritime world, but especially in ports. Obviously, I will give the regional perspective because I'm a regional cluster, so that's where I'm used to do the work. So we are on the western part of France, in Bretagne and Pays de la Loire, 2 regions, and I mean, these 2 regions, they just released last year regional roadmaps to deploy hydrogen. So both regions did it almost together, and we, as a cluster over these 2 regions, we try to link and to help these 2 regions to work together. So, for example, just for Brittany, they will use, obviously, the hydrogen strategy is not related only to maritime, to the maritime sector. It will gather or embedded continental activities and stuff, but there is in both of these regional roadmaps, there are maritime specificities. So for Brittany, they will, over the next 10 years, try to develop 3 ports ecosystem using hydrogen, and they will try to target 1 ton of hydrogen per day in terms of consumption. There is also quite a good link, and it's quite innovative, but we're working on this to do with the marine renewables for production. We want to produce what we call green hydrogen. I would rather call it blue hydrogen, but we will have, or there is at the moment a great move on the offshore wind and floating offshore wind in the next years around Brittany and Pays de la Loire. So we will use that to promote the production of hydrogen and so fuel the ports that could be then hubs for using hydrogen for other activities. And the region Brittany is also a ship owner of different ships for mainly passenger shipping, and so they will equip 10 of their ships really quickly. And for Pays de la Loire, it's over. It's a bit less. We are probably a region have less money than Le Havre and this part of France, but they will invest more than 100 million euro in hydrogen. And there is a concrete project of setting up and making the demonstration of a first maritime electrolyzer to be tested. That will come in the next few months, and that will help, as I said, with marine renewable. And there are also there will be an equipment for a passenger ship for local transport in the Pays de la Loire. So that's concrete initiative showing that things are moving on the right direction. But we don't forget that hydrogen is new. There is different challenge to address, mostly in terms of space on the boats, on cargo space, and also in terms of safety, which is not set up. And really quickly, digitalization is another part. Seine was already mentioned by Cyril. They develop a lot of new products and services regarding big data and intelligence, artificial intelligence. And we also have other small companies that develop innovation. I put here one company that it's called Semsoft that develop a full, let's say, platform for maritime transport, permitting to aggregate maritime data in international financial trades to make sure that all the transactions are official, legal, and they allow to verify when the ship left China, for example, when it arrived in Singapore, and etc., to facilitate the international trading. That's mainly all. Maybe that will, maybe that will the next one, the next line maybe will be more related to your next question if we still have time.
This is very exciting, and a lot of, I'm sure, projects and trends that also both the French and Norwegian actors around the table will recognize. I note how you underscore the focus on the ecological transition, and also explain so well how these different initiatives from the national to the regional level are connected. The development and massive buildup of renewable energy in France, both offshore wind and hydrogen, but also other renewable sources, how that is linked to this maritime development, and obviously also the port development, and how much money has been put behind it. I mean, it's not just talk. You gave some figures. The Norwegians might be surprised to hear that out of the COVID recovery package, France Relance of 100 billion euros, a third has been reserved for green transition projects, and also a considerable part of that in maritime development and port development. So it just illustrates the seriousness of this transition. But you sort of touched on it. Could you maybe just give us a couple of lines on how you then as a cluster work to stimulate this innovation and collaboration that is required to move ahead at the pace that the ambition has set?
Yes, of course. So as a cluster, we're here to help our members really to develop or to promote innovation. We're here to make sure they have access to a network, and this network is obviously our own networks first, but also the added value is to open this network to other networks. That's what I put on this slide as different collaborations we have with Norway. We have a really, really good collaboration with other clusters that makes some sort of foundation for collaboration for our members. We're not here for us, we're here for the audience, for our members, to make sure that they have the right links. So we have good connection with mainly with GCE, Global Center of Expertise, Ocean Tech and GCE in order, and a bit more on seafood with NCE. So we're also part of a larger alliance, which called on the right side, the Blue Tech Alliance, with other clusters in the world. But mainly, we organize workshops, we promote initiative. We had to build this kind of event to make sure that our members have opportunities to meet other companies, meet other, have access to other expertise capabilities to help them to develop their activities.
Super interesting, Phil. We take note, and we have to move on in our program, but I would also remind participants around the larger digital table that there is a chat if you have questions or want to post a comment. I saw Seine, which you mentioned, was on there saying that people can reach out if they have questions, and there is that B2B platform afterwards, and obviously use us in Innovation Norway or the Chamber of Commerce if you want to reach out to any of these actors. So thank you so much. We will also share, by the way, the presentations if the panelists permit after the session. So let me now turn to Norway, because it's interesting to hear how this compares. Phil, you drew it up nicely. There are many similarities there that some of us might not have thought of. In Bergen port, relatively small perhaps in a global scale, but still Norway's largest second port. You sit as head of environment, Even, and you also manage a project on indexing for emissions for ships that we will hear about. Now, Bergen is a hub for local and international maritime transport, and one of the largest cruise ports in Europe. And you have an ambition also to become Norway's greenest port. Be interesting to hear from your side. How are you practically working to make that transition on the Norwegian side? Can you relate to what our French colleagues here are saying?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to join you. I can very much relate to what Phil was describing regarding his region. It's quite striking how similar we are in different ways, also in terms of what we try to achieve and what we're doing at the moment. And so let me see if I can share this. I have to ask the stupid question. Do you see my PowerPoint?
We see your PowerPoint and hear you loud and clear. Please go. Wonderful.
Okay, so here you see a picture of Bergen city center. It's actually a large harbor district covering 7 municipalities surrounding this city. Bergen is in the city center, a cruise port. We are one of the bigger cruise ports probably in Northern Europe. And in addition to being a cruise port, we are a major hub for the offshore industry. So we are serving the oil oil development in the North Sea in different ways then. And as you see in this picture, there are several offshore vessels in the port at this day, together with the crews then. In addition, we have also a small container port, but it's just like 40,000 TEU. So I think that disappears very fast into Cyril's container ports in HAROPA. We do have a growth ambition, and I'll talk a bit more about how this turns out. What's interesting is in this picture is that if you look at this inner part of this bay area here, and I push the next slide, this is how it looked 120 years ago. And this is where we come from, and this is the challenge, because you know, the port city or the city grew out of shipping activities, and it's very much linked to the sea in different ways. But today, this has turned from being an asset to becoming a problem, a challenge for us then. And so this is another side of the city, and it's where we have container ports and some different activities. And this is actually an example of something which doesn't fit very well into the city landscape today. The city would like to do something with this area, or they would like to actually transform it in different ways. This is the city vision, and it's actually, the process has started. So in 6-7 years, we see the area transforms. And this has huge implications for us as a port. At the same time, as ports, we have to, what should I say, be a part of the ecological or environmental transformation towards zero emission. So basically, we take the challenge now, and that is by moving this old port area. Combined with a growth ambition, we move things from the city center out to the west on an island, where we are developing a new port for tomorrow, which will be like a zero emission concept. And we have done a lot of interesting strategies or developed strategies regarding how we should do this. One big challenge when you move from the area where your customers are located to somewhere else is that you generate a lot of traffic back into the old area. So this map shows that in the old location to the right, we were in the middle of everything, and now we're moving out to the left in the middle of nowhere, so to say. And but this creates actually an interesting opportunity, because our ambition is not to overload the road network. It's not to sort of generate more stress on the city and the surroundings. And one way of actually doing that is to move away from the roads, and then take the fjords and the channels and everything back. You know, in the old days, we had ships navigating all the different fjords, serving you know, goods and everything for people living at different places. And this is what we would like to re-establish. So we are actually, what should I say, now developing a new concept for transport, for moving goods between different locations in the area, which would be like a regional or a distributed way of organizing the port. And then one of the key concepts which will be connecting all the different locations throughout the region will be then a zero emission type of feeder ship. We have currently a collaboration with the Kongsberg Group, among others, and this is something which enables us to both achieve a zero emission solution and to avoid congestion problems on the road, and to yeah, in general have a much better environmental footprint. So tied to this, we have all the different things which was mentioned by Phil, like energy production, like digitalization, that sort of things, logistics, service development. Energy production is very central to the development. And if I just turn back to this map, the map down in the right corner, we have we have in the northern part of the map, we have one of the bigger oil terminals in Northern Europe, the Mongstad facility, and there is also then development plans for hydrogen production in this area, which will be connected to what we try to achieve at the port then. Digitizing logistics and services, I mentioned this. One of the things we are doing actually is that we are developing or transforming the port and the port organization as well, from being located at different places, different people do different things, to establishing a port coordination center. And digitalization is a key what should I say, enabler to achieve this then. So everything we do will be actually channeled through a port coordination center. There will be people able to deal with both environmental topics, with logistics related to transport of goods into the city and everywhere else. They will also do like a business platform, request for services, offer services, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of different pieces of the puzzles which are connected here. I'm not going to stress you with all the details in this picture, but the vision is big, and the point is that the port should, what should I say, take the role as a hub for the region and for the regional development, and this is what we're aiming for in a sort of bigger project in this region. Then. So.
Very exciting, Even. I note you say the vision is big and the challenge is clearly as big, and I also noted that you say that it's striking how similar both the challenges, some of the challenges are, and that's obviously a great starting point for collaboration. I think what you've illustrated also sort of builds on this very strong point made by our French colleagues, that this is about the territorial integration, creating an integrated gateway. And I was excited to see mention of Masterly, who's the world's first autonomous zero-emission freight ship that also actually presented in Lyon at a big French fair with us a couple of years ago. That is really the top of the pops in smart maritime development. And then at the same time, you said, well, we also have to take back some of the old ways of doing things on the waterways around Bergen and the fjord. So that's a nice sort of historical line from going back, but obviously also going forward. I'm sorry to cut you a little short, but I just really wanted to ask you the question about one of the projects that I know you're working on, because the ability to measure the environmental footprint of what you're doing is key. You're doing this for optimization, but obviously there's a thought behind it of being greener and more adapted. The project that I would like to hear just a little more about is the Environmental Port Index. Can you tell us about how you work with this technology very briefly?
Sure. If I can just say 1 second, this last slide on the general side, shore power, we already started a very broad development of shore power for all ships at the port of Bergen, and shore power for cruise ships is a key topic which we now have a facility for connecting 5 different ships at the same time at the port. So this is an integral part of what we're doing, and then it sort of creates a link to what we're doing, as you mentioned, on the Environmental Port Index side, because we have a large project among the Norwegian cruise ports where we actually try to measure the environmental impact of a cruise ship while visiting the port. Some of you may be familiar with a system called ESI, which is more like a general description of the ships. What we are doing is that we are extending this model, and then we do a reporting of each ship at the port, and then we get to learn a lot about the different ships regarding their emission, regarding their optimization processes, regarding their capabilities, etc. And this is tied to incentive systems. So for instance, the Port of Bergen, we have tied this to the incentive system in the way that if a cruise ship in the port is not doing anything beyond what's expected by law. They will get 150% increase in all port fees. And if they are doing really good, they get a 17.5% rebate. So it's not a big rebate, but it's a big penalty, and this works. We have very good indication that by doing this approach, we actually are achieving good results. So we are doing 16 ports reporting now, and yeah, the results are really good, and then we are starting to develop this as a general service, offering it internationally. I can probably talk about this for several hours, but
we'll have to invite you back.
but if somebody has an interest in this, then please come back to me, and we can delve into it. So there is also a website which tells a story about what we're doing here.
Very, very, very good. Invitation noted. We will be happy to invite you back, Even, to an event, but also those around the table who are interested, please do reach out, because I understand this is a project and a technology that is available for others to use and to share. And in the chat at present, we're posting a couple of resources like the link to this this website. We also have a pretty elaborate report on developments in French ports that we've developed jointly with the Chamber of Commerce. It's sort of on the French market for Norwegian actors, but obviously it is in English and free for all to read. Marco, my colleague, will post a link to that as well, so go in and learn more that way. But what you were saying, Even, was, I mean, it's very interesting, and also, I mean, the stick and carrot policy is obvious, and we don't have time to dive into that here. It was the topic of our last webinar, but that has also been central to really pushing the Norwegian shipping and ferry industry to go green, and that smoothly takes us over to our last but not least participant, Ivan Østvik from Norled, a key actor in the development of emission-free shipping and maritime transport in Norway, and I know you're also involved in a number of these projects. As we heard Even touch on, Norway has really been at the forefront of the zero emission vessels globally in short sea shipping in particular, and Norled has a number of these vessels on water at present. You were project lead, for example, for the first, you personally actually, for the world's first hydrogen ferry Hydra. And tell us just a little bit about this journey. How come you embarked on this, and where has it taken you so far?
Yes, thank you. I have some slides also to show you. So we this is an initiative from the Norwegian Road Administration back in 2017. They issued a tender for a partly hydrogen-driven ferry in Norway, and then they found a route east of Stavanger. And then there was a tender among the Norwegian ferry companies, Norled won it, and then now we are building this ferry to be in operation on hydrogen next year. So it's just one slide. Norled is a ferry operator, high-speed passenger operator in Norway with some 80 ships. We also in Norway, 6-7 years back, the first battery-driven ferry was launched. Next year there will be 80 battery-driven ferries in Norway, and now we also in this industry we're moving towards hydrogen-driven ferries to complement the battery technology. So basically, what we're building now is what will be the world's first liquid hydrogen-driven ship, and it's about 82 meters. It takes 80 cars. 300 passengers, and the installation on board is a 400 kilowatt fuel cell installation together with a 4-ton capacity for the liquid hydrogen. So this the fuel cells on board will be the first maritime fuel cells. We are undergoing technology qualification now with DNV as the class, and also with the flag, the Norwegian Maritime Administration. So there's a lot of focus on safety, and of course Norled has a lot of focus on the operation of it and the costs of this. But a lot of work, but moving forward. So we are planning now to, it's under construction, the hydrogen technology, and then we will install this in the winter and be in operation on liquid hydrogen in April next year. That's the plan. The ship itself is, as you see now, will be ready for battery operation here in the summer. So during end of summer and the autumn and into the winter, we will sail the vessel on batteries, and yeah, to ensure that everything is working well, and then we will install the hydrogen system on the top deck, as you see in this picture. So not much time to go into the details, but why are the road administration moving from the battery success to hydrogen? It's written in the last line. It is basically you can carry a lot more energy with hydrogen than batteries, so it's no question. And the numbers for hydro this ferry is the comparison is that you can run maybe half a day on batteries if you really fill it up with batteries, and then you can sail for 12 days on the hydrogen.
Very, very interesting project, I know, and also a sort of a key project in developing this this full value chain for liquid hydrogen for maritime transport. I just wanted to underscore or refer back what you mentioned about the drivers behind this and the reason for why Norway has taken such a lead position in zero emission ferries and shipping, being that there was a clear policy drive, there was a political decision behind it, and then importantly a public procurer, a public driver saying simply, well, if you want to run and operate ships for us, they have to be zero emission, and we're ready to pay for it with predictability over a period of time. And then obviously a private sector response from a whole ecosystem, providing the solutions to make that happen. So an exciting model for public-private partnerships and how public procurement can be a driver in this, where I know on the French side you don't have the same central actors such as the Norwegian Public Road Authority, but obviously in the regions and on some of these major complexes, there may be actors who could take a similar role, but you could read a bit about that in our report. I just want to pick up on what you started talking about, this value chain for liquid hydrogen. I know that another project that you've been involved in is the HyShip project. You had a couple of partners up on the last slide. The LMG Marine is one Norwegian company with an affiliate in France. In the HyShip project, where you're looking at creating a full value chain for liquid hydrogen for the maritime sector. As I understand it, this is a project that also involves a number of European and French partners. Air Liquide is part of it. Can you tell us a little bit more just about this specific project, including the need for port solutions required to realize such projects? Because you need more than the ships and the hydrogen, obviously.
Yes, the HyShip project basically comes from an initiative that Norled took together with some of the partners, BKK, Air Liquide, and Equinor. And then Wilhelmsen came along, which Wilhelmsen is a huge shipping company, much bigger than Norled, a worldwide operator. And in the HyShip project, they have an ambition to develop a coastal vessel that can sail along the Norwegian coast between the ports on the west coast, and to take the hydro technology to the next level and offer this as a coastal short sea shipping service sailing on hydrogen. Norled and Wilhelmsen is cooperating on this, and they have not taken the investment decision yet. They aim to do it this year. And in this picture and the background for this project, you see in this slide that there's a huge number of hydrogen-driven vessels now under planning. There are one or two of them that are towards construction. I'm not totally sure on the status of all of these now. Of course, some will not materialize, but there are a considerable number that are asking for basically for liquid production or hydrogen production. And just to exemplify, in this HyShip project, we are doing a case study for future fast ferries in Port of Bergen. And around Port of Bergen to from south north, there are I don't know, 10, 12 different routes sailing, and they're all asking for zero emission technology now. Norled is developing this concept, and seen as, okay, we are developing this concept, and Wilhelmsen is developing this cargo ship concept. And what we're all ending up with is asking, okay, where do we get the hydrogen supply from? Be it if it's liquid hydrogen or if it's compressed. It's the same process that we see when the LNG-driven vessels were developed some 20 years ago. The supply chain of LNG was the missing point for many of these ship projects. The ship technology as such is ready. It was ready for LNG, and then they were asking for the supply chain. And it's exactly the same issue we see now with the hydrogen supply. So that's the background for why we developed this HyShip project. And in the HyShip project, it all depends on liquid hydrogen production from Mongstad, which is an oil refinery in the area of Bergen. It's a huge complex producing, of course, oil products. But they have now the plan to develop a liquid hydrogen facility to serve ships in this region, and then in the case of Port of Bergen and the fast ferries, you need to establish a totally new logistic chain. The blue line here is illustrating the voyage, the sea voyage, if you have sea transport of liquid hydrogen, and the green line is a truck transport logistic solution. And then in this HyShip project, we are developing the total supply chain together with Air Liquide, basically. And then we are investigating potential places to transfer liquid hydrogen from, say, a container or a truck on board the vessel, using structures like this. And then of course, we have some talks with the Port of Bergen. If you see in the picture in the right here, they say, okay, where can we do this transfilling? We have security zones, we have safety zones, we need to simulate accidents and emissions. So it's all a new issue to consider for all the ports. So we have come a long way. We have this is under construction now for the ferry Hydra, and undergoing all the qualifications for a bunkering facility, and aiming to get the approval to use it from the national authorities now in the autumn. So technology developments fast moving forward. This is for liquid hydrogen. Similar issues and similar technology are under development also for compressed hydrogen. That's the
Very exciting project, Ivan, and I know also that many of the actors in this project are currently occupied making contacts with French and European actors. It's public that this project is one of the Norwegian candidates for the European IPCEI on hydrogen, the important project on common European interest, where France is also a member, a number of other countries, of course. So there's one obvious, well, it's one obvious examples of French, Norwegian, and European collaboration around key challenges, and one specific opportunity to match actors who have an interest in sharing either models or technology and serving respective projects. So reach out if you want to learn more. A really exciting and complex project, and I believe the first complete value chain for liquid hydrogen for the maritime sector once it's in place. Time's running when you have fun. We come up to the last 5 minutes of our session this morning, though I still encourage people to use the next hour to reach out to other participants if they have the opportunity. But I want to put one last question to you all around how do we now use this exchange and the many collaboration points that already exist. You pointed to a number of activities already running in the context that you have. I see Ludovic from the Chamber of Commerce has put one answer to my question in the chat. The Chamber of Commerce is launching an acceleration program, called the French Maritime Booster, Navire et Port de Futur, which is for French companies wishing to contribute or work in Norway, and you can sign up for that. But the question to you, all around the table, Even, Phil, Cyril, Ivan, any particular suggestions for how Norwegian or French actors around the table could intensify their collaboration or use these projects to move ahead faster or share their experience and solutions?
I could probably make one comment. We actually we were one of the candidates for this Horizon 2020 project. Unfortunately, it went to some of the bigger ports, including Cyril's guys, I guess. But I think there's a huge benefit from working with that sort of application development, because you get a very good network, and given the sort of ambitions among the French participants here, it could be a good idea to build upon what we have achieved so far regarding that sort of development, and find other projects which we can develop together. I think that is a very good way of approaching collaboration. We are using the network we have established through this application in a very good way, and I think this is a huge benefit just to be talking together then.
Awesome invitation. Look at that project or reach out to Evan if you want to learn more. Ivan, also you put your hand up.
Yeah, there's no problem. Take this value chain project with say, combined energy production together with ship operation and bunkering. So you have the total value chain, the total look, because the answer is in the totality. If you look at only small parts for stable hydrogen production, the answer will be probably compressed hydrogen, because it's cheaper and simpler to achieve today. Then in the future, if you look into 2030, the answer might be different, because the technology is moving fast. Liquid hydrogen will be cheaper. This liquid organic storage will become maybe available, and ammonia has been worked on. So it's important to look at the totality, and then Norled is open to share and develop, and we have our ship design office in Toulouse, LMG Marine, and that's the guy I'm working with to building and constructing this ferry. So through them there's a French-Norwegian open door to move fast into zero emission shipping.
Thank you, Ivan. I believe that invitation, or I hope that invitation is well noted around the table. Phil, you had a digital hand up.
Yeah, thank you. My digital hand. Yeah, I just want to add on Ivan's comment. Like, the first thing is try to know better each other, and I would say use your clusters. Like on the Norwegian side, on the French side, just come to us, just talk to us, tell us what you need, what you aim for, and we're here to make the link. Like we really talk together with GCEs and other cluster in Norway, with Ludovic from the Chamber of Commerce, with ULE. We already, on the last event we organized, had some sort of agreement from our public financiers, ADEM, that we could get some funding if on the other side, Enova, and I'm sure Enova and Innovation Norway are able to find some projects. So we already have some sort of agreement that we could get some money for the project. So now it's time to try to put the companies together on the value chain of hydrogen or other things. So use use us. We're here for that. Like,
Very, very, very important point, and you covered one of my missions. I should have said that at the entry, that a number of clusters are obviously partners to this, and we have dedicated cluster advisors. Go directly to the clusters. If not, they use the apparatus. We're there to facilitate that link. And obviously, on a high note, there are actually resources in the system. We are a business support system, and do reach out to use them. Cyril, can I ask you for a final reflection from HAROPA? You were at the center of this development in France, therefore also in Europe. A final comment on opportunities for collaboration.
A final comment. I would say first to the question before. Let's stay in touch. Let's stay in touch. You know me. I will try to improve my English. And I'm more familiar with talking with academics, you know, and talking with researcher and university people from the university. But just let's stay in touch and connect on LinkedIn or whatever. And I strongly believe the more we talk, the better we can connect and make connections between different companies, because it's exactly what we want to do. Honestly, at the moment, we are with this kind of project, Smart Port City. There are plenty of companies around us ringing our door, so it's quite complicated. But just stay personally in touch and get more familiar.
Yeah, and I can guarantee that we will help stay in touch. The Smart Ports report was just posted. It is posted in the chat, and it will be sent to all participants by email. So there's a little more sort of background on the French side, on the Norwegian side. So Cyril doesn't need to have individual companies running his door down. Please use us to bring forward a proposition or a group of points and companies if you think you have a relevant offering. And I just really encourage you, as a last note before we click out of this digital meeting, that there is a website called theexplorer.com, which is really a shop window for green tech solutions from Norway that we manage, where you can learn more about these individual solutions. There are plenty of articles and stories on many of the projects that you heard, and use us. I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your experiences and your valuable insights this morning. It's been really a pleasure to guide us through. And now for everyone around the table, please move into the B2B rooms if you're interested, and otherwise link up again for the next of this session or a reach out. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Eli, for moderating.
Thank you. Likewise.
Alma, do you stop the recording or do I do?